shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian Renteria. This is the first podcast of the new year. Well, technically the second podcast, but the first episode, the first movie roundup of the new year. Hello, everybody. I don't know if it will pick up here on the microphone. There's probably going to be a little bit of an echo, maybe. I don't know how the audio will be until after I start editing and stuff. I am recording this from work. Just been a little hectic, with the new year and everything kind of going down. So I just want to, I just wanted to make sure that I got the podcast done. And unfortunately, the only time I had to record a podcast this week was here at work. So I apologize for any potential audio issues. If there isn't any, then ignore this part. Or maybe I'll just cut it. Who knows? But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is, of course, the Movie Bit Podcast, where we talk about all the big breaking movie news items of the week, along with the trailers that came out this week. We have quite a few of those. And the movies that are out in theaters and streaming for all your viewing pleasures. Let's get right to the podcast. We'll start off, of course, like we always do, with trailer talk.
Coming soon to theaters.
So the first trailer we're going to talk about is the first trailer for the Foo Fighters horror comedy. Yes, those Foo Fighters. They're getting the movie Studio 666 is about the Foo Fighters, who are actually getting ready to record their 10th album. And in order to make it good, the band rent out an old mansion that they eventually find out is haunted. To make matters worse, Dave Grohl, who, yes, is playing themselves, they all are playing themselves in the movie, gets possessed, and the rest of the band end up trying to find a way to help him and to exorcise the demons that have taken over his body. It looks like wacky fun. It could potentially really work, or it could potentially just be an idea that sounds cool and then ends up not being that. The idea for the movie actually came from the band's experience of renting out a mansion to record an album, much like the plot of the movie, and their equipment went wonky, and apparently their microphones picked up some weird noises. Of course, the more supernatural elements of the movie are homages to the 90s and 80s horror movies, that horror comedies especially, that the band loves, especially Dave Grohl himself. Joining the band in the cast is Whitney Cummings, who looks to be playing a neighbor. Will Forte is also in there. Looks like he may be playing someone who used to live in the house. Jenna Ortega, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Of course, she's going to be in Scream. She's kind of in the very heavy marketing ploy for the movie. So she's in there. Leslie Grossman's in there, and so is Jeff Garlin, who looks like he's playing their manager or a representative for the album. The album company. Apparently, there will be some cameos from other musicians in the industry. Lionel Richie shows up in the teaser real quick, but apparently there's some other ones in there too. The movie will open next month in theaters on February 25th. Like I mentioned, it looks a little wacky. It looks like hopefully, potentially a fun horror comedy with the Foo Fighters, who, granted, are not actors, but from the trailer anyway, it looks like they're holding their own. So I'm down for it. Will it be good? Who knows? That's still up in the air. So, but if you're interested, there you go. That's Studio 666. We'll move on to the next trailer, which is we finally got a trailer for the long-gesturing feature-length animated movie for Fox's hit animated show Bob's Burgers, called, of course, Bob's Burgers the Movie, or the Bob's Burgers Movie, depending on how they're going to market that. The movie was first announced back in 2017 and was planning on a 2020 release. Of course, the pandemic hit, and that went away. And it kept getting pushed back for other reasons too, for delays and stuff like that. The trailer itself starts off pretty funny, because it starts off kind of like a burger joint commercial, kind of like a Burger King or a Hardee's or anything like that, Carl's Jr. And then it immediately turns into animation. And you hear, if you're not familiar with Bob's Burgers, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Bob's Burgers, and I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. But the movie, it's based off the animated show, so it's about this family called the Belchers who run a burger shop. And of course, there's the mom, Linda, there's the dad, Bob, who's voiced by John Benjamin, who also voices Archer. If you watch that, he was also the voice for Comedy Central for a long time. But you have them, and then you have their three kids, Luis, Jean, and Tina, who also get in their own wacky adventures. It's a really good comedy show. It's animated if you want to give it a shot. That first season is kind of rough. They're still finding their footing, but everything after that is just, it's solid. It's really, really solid. But the trailer, teaser really starts off with animation. Throughout the kind of like burger kind of commercial aspect of it, you hear Linda in the background, which is the mom, which is a nice little touch, getting putting you immediately in the sense that, okay, this is a Bob's Burgers movie. But then the teaser itself, they don't really show too much. The synopsis does say there is a sinkhole that opens up in front of the restaurant. We get little glimpses of the sinkhole, but not, how massive it is or anything like that. We don't really get too much from the teaser. It's a teaser at the end of the day, so we don't really get too much. It does look like Linda and Bob are trying to keep business up during the summer. The kids are getting into their own misadventures, if you will. So it should be interesting. So as a teaser, it really works. It finally gives us a look at the movie. The animation does look a little different. I'm sure it's for good reasons and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this. If you've never watched anything Bob's Burgers, if you've never watched the show, I highly recommend you do. It's very, very good. It's very solid. So this will come out on May 27th, 2022, this year, obviously. So be looking forward to that. We'll talk more about that once, of course, the movie comes out. Excuse me. Of course, once the movie comes out. The next trailer we're going to talk about is the first trailer for Steven Soderbergh's new sci-fi thriller, KIMI, in all caps, by the way. And this looks pretty good. It looks okay. Zoe Kravitz stars as the lead and plays a audio stream interpreter, as she puts it, who uncovers a recording that sounds suspiciously like a murder. In order to solve the crime, her agoraphobic character, which I don't really think we get that much in the trailer, but the synopsis says she is agoraphobic, which of course is a person that's afraid of large crowds and going outside. Her character needs to leave her home and then try to find proof of the murder, which no one seems to believe. And it also involves the company behind KIMI, which in the movie is a voice-activated digital assistant. It's pretty much an Alexa, but they call it KIMI, obviously. It doesn't look too bad. It looks, the movie kind of teases the fact that Zoe Kravitz's character is probably an unreliable lead because she, I guess, takes medication for trying not to misdiagnose her or give her something else that she doesn't have. But they're basically saying that she's very unreliable and she can't be trusted because she's on a lot of medication. So there is that. Steven Soderbergh kind of playing a lot with the kind of mental aspect of it all. I have a heater right next to me in case you're wondering what those pops are, if the microphone picks them up. I don't really know what more to say. The trailer looks okay. I was saying Steven Soderbergh, he kind of touched a little bit on potentially at the very best a female character. Always nice to have a female lead in movies, but at the very best, a female character who may have some problems with her mentally, potentially, or at least that's what people say about her, about that character, which leads them to believe that they're not, as reliable as they say. He did a little bit of that with Unsane, which just kind of gave me a little bit of that vibe, although Unsane was more of a kind of direct thriller. KIMI seems like a sci-fi thriller just because of the technology aspect of it all. So it looks okay. It's going to be streaming on HBO Max on February 10th. So maybe we'll give that a look and we'll talk about it here on the podcast. People are interested in that. And the last trailer we're going to talk about here on the podcast, at least at the time of this recording, obviously, is the first trailer for A24's newest film called X. It's X, just the letter X, and it's directed by Ty West, who did The House of the Devil, The Innkeepers. He also did, what was the other one? There was a Western one, In the Valley of Death or something like that. Death in the Valley, something along those lines. But Ty West, he's back. The movie follows a group of young filmmakers and actors who end up in a desolate Texas farm where they ask the elderly owner if they can use his property to shoot a movie, not telling him that they're actually shooting a porno. However, the elderly man does tell him that his wife isn't in the best shape, and it gets worse at night, whatever that means. And what we see is the wife terrorizing the group and then probably picking them off one by one. The trailer is pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot going on in the trailer. It's very kinetic and very fast going and fast paced. The trailer itself is giving us the story of the actors, that story, and then showing us scenes from the movie they're filming. And honestly, it just looks crazy all the way around. Ty West is one of those directors where, you know, I think you'll either like his work or enjoy his work, but there isn't really an in-between. I don't feel like there's an in-between for you know, just from what I've seen, you know, people's reaction to his work. I kind of really liked House of the Devil. It was a very slow burn movie if you want to give that a shot. The Innkeepers, I know a lot of people really like that movie. It's not a bad movie. It's not. I will admittedly say that it's not a bad movie. It just wasn't for me. So I don't know if, you know, this doesn't, I don't know if Ty West is going to be keeping with the kind of slow burn of his movies with X, because the trailers for House of the Devil and The Innkeepers, they kind of gave that vibe that it was going to kind of be a slow burn. This doesn't. This looks like it's going to start off and it's not going to let, you know, go of the gas pedal until the very end of the movie. So I don't know how that works out, but I'm excited. The cast here is pretty solid too. I mean, you got Mia Goth from the recent Suspiria remake. She was also in, she's been in a bunch of stuff. She was in that, what was it called? I didn't write it down either because I thought I would remember it, but apparently I don't. She was in that movie with Dandy Han where he goes to like an island and it's like a institution. What was it called? I don't remember. A Cure for Wellness. There you go. It was a Cure for Wellness. She was in that too. She's been in a bunch of other stuff too, but I think those are the two things that most people remember her from. I think she was also in Emma, the one with Anya Taylor-Joy. Brittany Snow's in there, of course, from like the Pitch Perfect movies, Prom Night. So she has some horror background in her. Jenny Ortega, which we talked about earlier. She's of course in Scream, coming out this weekend. She's also in the Netflix series You. She's, I think she's in another movie that's getting a digital virtual release next week. I think maybe we'll talk about, or maybe even this week. I can't remember. I think it's an HBO Max movie too. I don't think I have it down I do not have it down on my list. That's weird. But she has a new movie out. She has two new movies out, either this week or next, or one of the other ones coming out next week. But she's kind of slowly taking over Hollywood as well, and she's very good from what I've seen her. She's also in the Babysitter sequel, Killer Queen, right? She plays the other main girl in there. Scott Mescuddi's in there, aka Kid Cudi. He looks like he's playing one of the actors, and Martin Henderson is also in there. Looks like he's playing the kind of scummy director when you think about it, or kind of how it looks. So there you go. X will open in theaters on March 18th. I didn't know this movie was out or was coming out, so the trailer kind of pretty much sold me on it. So I don't know. We'll have to obviously wait and see how that works out, especially with COVID still out there. So, but there you go. Those are your trailers this week. All of them will be linked down below in the description/show notes area if you want to go give them a watch for the first time or go watch them again. So there you go. Let us move on to the movie news items of the week. All right, so we're going to start off with some quick-fire movie news items. I haven't done this in a while. So quick-fire movie news items for those first time listening to the show. It's pretty much what it sounds like. There's just pretty self-explanatory. Not too much, mainly because sometimes it's pretty much straight to the point and I don't really have too much to say. But a lot of times it's because there's people involved in the project that I still want to get it out there, or sometimes there's just not a lot and it just sounds really cool, like this one. Sony Pictures is in early development on Thread with Jeremy Slater, who has done things like mostly TV series like The Exorcist, The Umbrella Academy. He's also doing work on the upcoming Disney Plus series Moon Knight. Movie-wise, not so good. He was one of the writers on Fantastic Four. He also wrote The Lazarus Effect, which was the Olivia Wilde movie. That's kind of like Flatliners. And he also did some work on the Netflix script for Death Note. So movie-wise, not so great, but TV-wise, hitting it out of the park. I heard The Exorcist show is very good. I never got a chance to watch it, and that's my bad, and that's definitely on my watch list. I have not watched the Umbrella Academy either. That's actually my next show that I'm going to start binge watching, but I heard that was very good, and Moon Knight looks very promising. Anyway. Jeremy Slater is writing and directing Thread. James Wan and his Atomic Monster banner are producing the movie. And the reason it's here is because it sounds pretty cool. The story itself is being kept secret, but Thread is billed as a Back to the Future and Aliens. I don't know what that means, but that sounds cool. Those are two very good movies and two movies that I very much enjoy, and I look forward to watching that. The next quickfire movie news item is The Quiet Place spinoff has found its replacement director in Michael. I'm going to mispronounce his name, and I apologize for that. Michael Sordanowski. He's known for directing the Nicolas Cage thriller Pig, which came out last year, which everyone seemed to very much enjoy. I haven't watched it yet. I know it's on Hulu now, so I'm definitely going to go fix that. Saranowski, if again I'm sure I'm not pronouncing his last name right, is replacing Jeff Nichols, who was attached as soon as the project was announced, but he left the project as a director late last year. It's unknown if Saranowski will write or develop his own version of the movie, as Nichols was writing, or at least co-writing, his version of the spinoff, and now that he's gone, we don't know if all that will change. John Krasinski, who of course directed the first two Quiet Place movies, will be a producer on the spinoff, and he really liked Pig, and like many other people as well, and he brought him on board. He was on the short list, Michael Saranowski was, for replacements for Jeff Nichols, so that was really cool. No word yet on production will start, but with a new director in tow, pre-production could start to get very serious soon. We'll have to see on that. That is going to be real annoying, that clicking sound. I hope it doesn't get picked up that much on the microphone. Anyway, moving on. Andrew Koji, I lost my place in my outline now too. Andrew Koji and Jessica Roth have joined Bill Skarsgård, Isaiah Mustafa, and Yayan Rahuan. I think that's how you pronounce his. I don't think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's one of the guys from the Raid movies. In the action fantasy Boy Kills World, I think we briefly talked about this in the podcast last year when it was first announced. Andrew Koji, by the way, from Snake Eyes. He was also the TV series Warrior. Jessica Roth, probably mainly known by many fans, especially anyone who probably listens to this podcast, for the Happy Death Day movies. She's the main girl. She's Tree. The movie is described as a, quote, one-of-a-kind action spectacle set in a dystopian fever dream reality, and follows a boy who is deaf-mute with a vibrant imagination. When his family is murdered, he escapes to the jungle and is trained by a mysterious shaman to repress his childish imagination and become an instrument of death. Roth is actually replacing Samara Weaving, who exited the project this week due to scheduling conflicts, unfortunately. But I don't know. I think Jessica Roth is a pretty good replacement. Sam Raimi is producer on the movie, with Moritz Moore making his feature directorial debut. I think he was kind of mainly like a second unit guy, or like, production guy or something like that. So he has some experience, but this will be his feature-length directorial debut. Production is expected to start early next year in South Africa. I think I read somewhere that it was going to start in February next year. So this is still kind of a ways away from happening, but they're putting it together, so that's pretty cool. Okay, moving on to, it's kind of blending into the big movie news items of the week. While doing promotion for the tragedy of Macbeth, Denzel Washington revealed that his next movie could very well be, and probably is going to be, The Equalizer 3. The tidbit came from an interview with Collider.com, and he also told them that a script was already written. So this could be moving a lot faster than anyone thought. Additionally, Collider has sources telling them that director Anton Fuqua, who directed the first two, is currently in talks to come back to direct as well, and that there shouldn't be any holdup on him coming back. Fuqua does have another movie lined up for him to direct, which is the Apple TV Plus movie Emancipation with Will Smith, which is based on a true story. But Equalizer 3, I mean, if you can get Anton Fuqua and Denzel Washington back together. I mean, that's always a good combo. The first Equalizer was pretty good. I didn't really expect too much from the first one, and ended up really liking it. Part 2 had its moments, but I think I don't think it was as good as the first one. So maybe, they can bounce back a little bit with Part 3. Washington has said that he really likes the character and the movies, likes doing them, and he has hope that the third one will send the character internationally. So, I mean, if he has any say-so, I can only imagine that he has some say-so. I'm pretty sure that maybe we'll see his character go international a little bit more. So there you go. Equalizer 3, I don't know if anyone's excited for that. Again, I thought the second one was okay. I would have been okay if we didn't get another one, but there is that. All right, moving on to the next movie news item. A sixth Final Destination movie is being developed for HBO Max and will be produced by John Watts, aka the man that just directed Spider-Man No Way Home. Watts reportedly developed the treatment for a new installment and he is said to be a massive fan of the movie himself. And the script is being written by Laurie Evans Taylor and Guy Busick. Guy Busick actually he had a hand in writing the new Scream movie coming out this week, and also wrote Ready or Not, which the directors of Ready or Not directed Scream. So there you go with that. There is no word yet on if Watts will direct the sixth movie in the series, considering he's going to be busy man, as he is linked to direct Marvel's new Fantastic Four movie. There is no word yet on when the sixth Final Destination movie will happen, and considering it's just being developed, it probably will be a ways away, and it will come out on HBO Max, so there is a possibility that they could fast track this movie and get it going. The last installment that we saw, the Final Destination, came out in 2011. So it's been quite a while since we've gotten a Final Destination movie. Those movies are usually pretty fun. Sometimes they're kind of just, turn off your brain and enjoy, people getting killed, because death is very petty in those movies. Knock on wood, that was just a joke. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of enjoy the movies for what they are. I think everyone enjoys the movies for what they are. I think they did kind of lose a little bit of their luster near the end of the franchise. I know the last movie kind of tried to do something interesting because, this movie is 10 years old now, or a little bit over 10 years old, so I don't think it's really necessarily considered a spoiler, but the last movie was kind of supposedly a prequel to the overall movies. So I don't know, what they'll do with here. It says Final Destination 6 or 6th Final Destination movie. We don't know if they'll go the hard reboot or if they'll go off everything. Again, we just don't know what's going on there. But, they got a big name in John Watts attached as a producer. Script-wise, I forgot to look up what Laurie Evans Taylor was known for, but you got Guy Busick writing the script. Again, Ready or Not, Scream. Hearing a lot of good things from Scream. Ready or Not was very, very good, character-wise and just script-wise. That's very good. So if they can bring that energy to a Final Destination, I think we're in good hands with that. So I didn't think I'd see myself being excited for another Final Destination movie, but here I am. All right, let's move on. Paramount Pictures is in line to remake Alfred Hitchcock's 1955 thriller To Catch a Thief, with Gal Gadot set to star and writer Eileen Jones in negotiations to write. Gadot will also produce the movie under her Pilot Wave banner. Jones, by the way, the writer, worked on the TV series Prodigal Son and Lethal Weapon, both of them on Fox, and recently her pitch for a movie called Highwaymen got the attention of Margot Robbie with her production company Lucky Chap and writer Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee and Birds of Prey. The original starred heavy hitters like Cary Grant and Grace Kelly, and followed a retired jewel thief who has to prove his innocence after being suspected of a crime. No word yet on if the remake will follow the story or if they'll switch it up just a bit, or who Gadot will play. Will she, will they go the gender swap way and have, her play, the thief? Also, no word on production starting, but Gadot does have a busy schedule with development on Wonder Woman 3 underway. The Snow White live-action remake will show play the evil queen, and another remake in Cleopatra, which Patty Jenkins will be a producer on, of course, her Wonder Woman director on that. She'll next be seen in Death on the Nile, which is a sequel to Murder on the Orient Express, which will come out next month. We'll talk about that, of course, next month when it comes out. I'm pretty sure I've seen To Catch a Thief. I have to probably go back and watch it. Let's just say for the sake that I do remember watching To Catch a Thief. I just don't remember anything specific. I know I watched it. I want to say I watched it. I'll have to go back and watch it. But yeah, I mean, Alfred Hitchcock's movie is no stranger to getting remade. Gal Gadot obviously keeping herself very busy recently, and probably and for the foreseeable future as well, from the looks of it. So I'm game if they make it good. I've not seen Prodigal Son, but I know a lot of people have some good things to say about that. I also never saw Lethal Weapon, but I heard that was good for the most part. So we'll have to see how that works out. Let's stick with Gal Gadot in a sense. Netflix is planning back-to-back sequel shoots for Red Notice. They will be bringing back stars and leads Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds, along with writer-director Rawson Marshall Thurber. Try saying that 10 times fast. Reports say that Netflix is in the early stages of putting together a plan to shoot the sequels back-to-back, with the hope to begin production in 2023. But that all relies on the availability of Johnson, Gadot, and Reynolds. Thurber has already begun, to write the scripts for the sequels, which he admitted he didn't have plans to write sequels, but he had ideas. And now that Netflix has, of course, ordered those sequels, it looks like that will come to play. The plan is also add more characters to the mix, and apparently, from reports, give it a Ocean's 11 vibe to it, or kind of in that style. Obviously, more heists are on the way. This news comes, of course, after Netflix touted that Red Notice was the streamer's most popular movie ever. So why not make more sequels, right? Again, everything is in the early stages, and production won't start until everyone's schedule is clear. So it might be a while before we see a Red Notice schedule. We know how busy Ryan Reynolds or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. We just found out how busy Gal Gadot is. Ryan Reynolds admittedly said he's going to take a little bit of a break from movies. So maybe Red Notice will be his first big movie back on the big screen, or at least on our small screen, or unless you have a really big home theater like I do, big enough. All right, moving on to the final movie news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording, also connected to Netflix. So some nice little segues here that I created for myself. Netflix has gotten the remake rights to the hit martial arts action movie The Raid. Deadline broke the news and reports that original director Gareth Evans will produce the movie along with Michael Bay. Yes, that Michael Bay. And it will be directed and co-written by Patrick Hughes, who was the man behind The Expendables 3, The Hitman's Bodyguard, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which was a sequel that came out last year, and the upcoming The Man from Toronto, which will star Kevin Hart and I believe Woody Harrelson. James Belfort, who helped Hughes on Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, is the other writer on the movie. Belfort, I should say, did not write the sequel. He actually was like an assistant, but I guess Hughes is giving him his shot here with the remake. The remake will reportedly be set in Philadelphia's drug-infested The Badlands, and see an elite undercover DEA task force climb the ladder of cartel informations to catch an exclusive kingpin. So they're keeping the, I'm assuming, keeping the high. No, I don't know if it's a high rise. I didn't do any research on the Philadelphia's Badlands, but we can probably assume that it's probably going to be very similar. The deal has been in the works for a while, apparently, but insiders say it all came together after the rights lapsed from the most recent try at the reboot, and Bay and Hughes were suggested to take a shot at getting involved, and both of them were very game. They got involved and hit it off, and apparently with the take and the approach that they were going to go with, once they all got together, they started shopping it around, and Netflix became very interested and aggressively, reportedly, tried to get it, and recently landed the deal. The remake has been in the works for some time, pretty much since the movie came out way back when. People like Taylor Kitsch, Chris Hemsworth, his brother Liam Hemsworth was attached at one point as well. They were all attached to star. The last push for the reboot that I think a lot of us can remember, and that at least that I can remember, Frank Grillo. Obviously, very fan favorite Frank Grillo was attached to star with his friend and director Joe Carnahan. They were promoting one of their movies that they had done together. One of the many movies they had done together. I think it was the movie with Frank Grillo and Anthony Mackie that was on Netflix. I can't remember the name of the movie now, but I think they were promoting that. And Frank Grillo, and by that point, Frank Grillo and George Carnahan had said like they were remaking it, and they said that they were going to take a different approach. It wasn't going to be called The Raid; it was going to be called something else, but it was essentially going to be inspired by it. Frank Grillo was very on board because he had actually already worked with Iko Uwais, the star of the Raid movies, and I guess he kind of got his blessing to do the movies, and they were going to take a very different approach to how they were going to do the remake, and it sounded pretty decent. I mean, it wasn't, a complete. I mean, the Raid, I love the Raid, and I love the Raid movies. I do, and the Raid itself, very very simple plot. Obviously, everything that came from the Raid that a lot of people loved was the action, and I obviously, the action is one of the things that it changed more. Everyone, arguably calls it the best martial arts movie that came out. I think at the time it was like within the 10 year for the last 10 years, and I would agree at that point, and I still agree a lot to this point. And I know when the movie came out, Dredd came out around the same time, and everyone was making comparisons and saying that Dredd was already a remake of The Raid and everything like that, even though they were made essentially around the same time. They were filmed around the same time, and finally got the release dates, unfortunately, around the same time as well. But The Raid itself, I mean, it's a pretty simple story. It's not necessarily anything groundbreaking. It's just how you go about it. And I think that was always the thing with The Raid remake. It was like, yeah, it's a simple story, but how are you going to make it your own? And how are you going to approach that subject matter? Like, you're not going to copy and reproduce the same style of action, because that's, that was all the action was done by a team that rehearsed hours and hours and trusted each other, and were expert martial artists and everything like that. Gareth Evans himself, the director, also knows martial arts, and obviously he just happened to be a filmmaker and decided to get a lot of the people that he knew were martial artists and were stunt people and put them all in a movie together, and they made The Raid, and they made one of the best martial arts and action movies within the last 10 years of that, and now obviously a little bit longer past that. And they made the sequel, and Gareth Evans has been very he said he was working on a Raid 3, but then he went on and did some other stuff, and I think admittedly he has said that that he does, I think the Raid time is over. He's not going to go back and do it. He said maybe someday in the future, but at the moment he's not. He's focusing on other stuff, and I don't blame him. He has Gangs of London, which is the AMC Plus show, which is very good. If you've not watched Gangs of London, highly recommend it. The first season's out. Second season is coming very soon. I think they said sometime this year. I don't think they have an exact release date for it, but it is coming out this year. So go watch that if you haven't watched it. It's very, very good. He also did a movie called Apostle with Dan Stevens on Netflix, if you want to go check that out as well. Very different. It's not a big martial arts movie, but his style is there. There's a few fights in there, and you kind of see the style of The Raid, and that's his style, and it's really very good. And you see that also in Gangs of London as well. But for the remake, I mean, it was only a matter of time that it was going to happen. So it's Michael Bay. He's producing it, and a lot of times the Michael Bay produced movies aren't very good either. I don't think I've enjoyed any of the movies that Michael Bay has produced recently anyway. I probably had to go back and check, but that doesn't really make me trustworthy. I mean, he knows how to direct action, fine. I'll give him that. And Ambulance, which is a movie that he's releasing this year, the one with Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen, the second, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, that looks pretty good. So he has that. And then there is Patrick Hughes, the director. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his style. I don't think, when I think of The Raid, and even though I know I just said that, it's all everything about The Raid remake, style-wise and story-wise, you got to kind of make it your own, because it's a fairly simple story. But with Patrick Hughes, I don't know. I just, his style and his tone, I don't necessarily see that as Raid quality. And I don't know if I trust him with the remake of The Raid. Expendables 3, it was a third one. By that point, they kind of, ran out of steam. I like the Hitman's Bodyguard. I like the charm of it. I thought the action in that one was really good. I talked about it on the podcast last week, which was the big recap of 2021. The Hitman's Bodyguard. I forgot where I ended up putting it, but I know I said that I was not a fan of it. It kind of just lost a lot of the charm from the first one. And he did do a movie, Patrick Hughes, which I really enjoyed, and I saw it years ago. I think it was his first movie. It was the first movie that I saw. of his, and I don't think a lot of people have seen it. It's called Red Hill. And the reason why I was excited for Patrick Hughes to direct The Expendables 3 when he was announced as the director was because I had seen Red Hill, and I really liked Red Hill. So if you have a chance to go watch Red Hill, go ahead and watch it. It is kind of a slow burn, but kind of for the style and the story they were trying to tell, it makes sense because it's kind of like this neo kind of Western. So give it a shot if you haven't watched it. I mean, if you watch Red Hill and then you watch his other movies, you can tell that he's kind of deviated a little bit away from that. I don't know if he was just, trying to do something and, all the money in the world that he's been thrown at with these last few movies that he's done have changed his style or anything like that. So I don't know. So, I had more, with Joe Carnahan, I was like excited because I'm a huge fan of Joe Carnahan and I'm a huge fan of Frank Grillo as much as everybody. So when they were attached, I was like, you know what? Like they were probably going to do something. If they're going to change it, at least he'll probably make it, worthwhile and make it good. So I was a little disappointed now that they're not going to make it, but I don't know. With Patrick Hughes and Michael Bay. I think the only thing that really is giving me any faith for the movie is Gareth Evans being attached. He's the original director. He wrote it. He produced it, and I think this is the first time he's been attached to any of the reboots that have been lined up. So bringing him back and having him involved, even if it's just like a producer or an executive producer credit or whatever, having him involved, I think does lessen the blow a little bit. And I think it does make me, I don't want to say it makes me excited. I don't know if it even makes me cautiously optimistic either, but it does intrigue me that it doesn't intrigue me a little bit more. And it gives me just a little, very tiniest bit of faith that maybe, the movie could be good. Or at least decent at the very least. Because if he's involved, he's not going to put his name on something that obviously made him a household name, or at least a household name, with amongst action fans. He's not going to put his name on something that, on his baby, pretty much, on a remake of his baby, rather, and be like, oh yeah, you guys can go ahead and ruin it. I don't see him doing that. So, on one hand, I don't want to say I guess I have to say I'm cautiously optimistic just because of Gareth Evans. If Gareth Evans ends up leaving, then I think I will withdraw that and be worried that they're doing it. I'm not discounting it right off the bat like a lot of other people have, and people are jokingly saying that we already got a remake. It's called Dread, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to obviously see the approach and more of the story and definitely who's involved. Because I will admit, when I heard that Taylor Kitsch was attached, that was like the first, real remake news. I was not a fan. Nothing against Taylor Kitsch. Don't see him as an action star. Not at all. Liam Hemsworth, same. I do not see him as an action star. I don't see him as believable. Chris Hemsworth, great. Chris Hemsworth now also has the Extraction movies. He's filming the second one right now. And if you haven't seen the Extraction, the first one, I highly recommend you do because it's very, very good, especially as an action movie. Directed by a second unit, a stunt guy turned, second unit director turned, feature length director in Sam Hargrave. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to say other than I guess I would say I'm cautiously optimistic only because of Gareth Evans being attached. If he's not attached, if he wasn't attached, I would not be optimistic whatsoever at all. But yeah, there you go. All right. That is the news that I have for you, at least at the time of this recording. If anything drops, I'll probably at this point end up putting it up on the Twitter page for you guys. That's all I got for you guys. Let us move on to the movies coming out in theaters and streaming this weekend.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
We only got two. I only have two here, at least two big ones that I was able to find. The first one is the streaming movie that we'll talk about, and that is The Tragedy of Macbeth. That finally will stream on Apple TV Plus. This did come out late last year, that week of Christmas, in theaters, limited theaters anyway. But if you didn't get a chance to watch it, now you can watch it on Apple TV Plus. And this is of course directed by one of the Coen brothers. I think it's Joel. I didn't write that down, but it's directed by one of the Coen brothers. It's written and directed by one of the Coen brothers. So the other one doesn't have any involvement whatsoever. Denzel Washington plays Macbeth. Yes, this is based off the Shakespeare Macbeth. Denzel Washington plays Macbeth. Frances McDormand plays Lady Macbeth. There's a slew of supporting actors, great supporting actors in there that are very good. And I've heard some pretty good things about it. This movie was also shot in black and white. It was also shot completely in a soundstage, so they can control the environment, and that's saying something, because that's very, very impressive. So there you go, The Tragedy of Macbeth. If you don't have an Apple TV Plus subscription, I guess you would get it. I'm pretty sure that maybe the movie's available somewhere else, or will be available somewhere else on VOD platforms a little bit later, but it will be coming out on Apple TV Plus there. But the big movie in theaters, only in theaters, is Scream. Obviously, the fifth Scream. It's not a reboot, at least from what I heard. Or I haven't really read anything. I have seen a lot of the reaction from this movie, and a majority of it. I have not seen anything. I haven't gone looking for it, but everything that I've seen about Scream is good. Everyone is saying that this movie is good, that it pays respect to the original, it pays respect to Wes Craven's movies, it pays respect to his legacy of this franchise. And that just makes me even more excited, and it makes me really bummed out that I can't just run to the theater and go watch it right away, because I obviously don't want to catch COVID again. Which, by the way, this is your first time listening, I caught COVID over Christmas. But I'm fine now. I'm totally fine. There goes the banging again. I apologize for that, if the mic picks it up anyway. But yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Scream. Like, nothing but good things. Everyone is saying it's good. It pays respects. I'm surprised of how many good things I've heard about Scream. It's directed by the guys that did Ready or Not, so everyone was really optimistic about that. I was very optimistic about that. Not cautiously optimistic. I was very optimistic after seeing Ready or Not. I loved Ready or Not. It was one of my favorite movies that came out when that year. It came out a few years ago now, I think. So I was very optimistic of that. It brought back, it's bringing back the legacy characters of Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette. And it's bringing this slew of new characters. It supposedly has, connection to the original characters as well from the very first movie. I'm looking forward to this. I hope that I can just, go in the middle of the week one day and just, get as empty theater as possible to go watch this, because I was already going to go watch it, and I was very optimistic for it, but now hearing all the good things about it, it just makes me want to watch it even more. So be careful out there for spoilers. I know the team behind Scream, the directors, and even some of the producers and writers, and I think even everybody that was involved in the movie is kind of going out and being like, hey, don't spoil the movie for people who haven't got a chance to watch it. So that's really cool. There you go. Scream's your big movie in theaters this weekend, and The Tragedy of Macbeth is your big streaming movie that you can watch on Apple TV Plus. I didn't look up, see if you can get it anywhere else on video on demand or something, or premium video on demand. But if you can find it, go ahead and watch it, because I know I'm going to be watching that this weekend too. If I can watch anything, I guess I'm going to be watching Tragedy of Macbeth, because I probably won't be able to watch Scream, because I know a lot of at least in my area, a lot of the screenings last night were sold out. So that probably says a lot. So that's it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast this week. Very much appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. This is obviously the first podcast of the new year, the first episode, the first movie news roundup. Obviously, the last podcast that came out was a recap of 2021. So if you've not heard that or watched that, you can go ahead and listen to that and not hear any banging in the background, probably, or have some potentially scuffed audio. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Very much appreciate it. You guys are great. Go check out the links down below for everything. You can listen to the podcast on multiple platforms, no matter where you're listening to: YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast. Very much appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to my little podcast here. But if you're new, thank you very much for checking out the podcast. Hopefully you guys stick around. The quality will be the quality isn't always like this, but yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. Be sure to stay safe out there. I know there's a bit of an ice front coming up, so if I have any listeners in the path of that, please be safe and be careful. Also continue to be safe and be careful of COVID, because I'm telling you right now, if you get COVID, even if you're vaccinated, it sucks. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. Continue to be good people. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your week whenever you're listening to this. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!